Big sports story of the day, what's played out with the Padres naming their next manager. They'll officially name Craig Stammen as manager on Monday. They've announced he will be their next manager with this 3-year deal, and it's always great to connect with our Padres insider, Kevin Acee, back with us right now on Jon Jim. Kevin, in your reporting, and first of all, hope you're well, and thank you for doing it. In your reporting, have you found out how this kind of came to be, so to speak? How Craig Stammen maybe went from the outside and then became a focal point of their search?
Yeah, like they had this wide net, and among the several dozen, let's call it 45 or more guys that were on their original list, Craig Stammen was one of them, just like Ryan Flaherty was one of them. And you're talking about an AJ Ellis, but you're talking about guys with young kids, right? And devoted family men. And in the case of AJ and Craig, that's why they have not been coaches or really AJ was a manager candidate last year, but and so Flaherty and AJ and Craig were like, no, you know what? Not really. No, not going to be a candidate. And then after Craig was a part of some of the Zoom interviews with some of the candidates and had a week and maybe was able to talk to his wife and kind of see whether this was something that he wanted to do. He told the Padres, I want to be a candidate. And at that point, like, my educated speculation is that kind of became a favorite, and none of us knew it at the time. We knew there was this mystery candidate, but none of us knew it at the time. But like, they know Craig and they love Craig, and they were a little surprised by the fact that he was making himself a candidate, and so he became one of the 4 finalists. And I don't want to say like blew him away, but because they knew who he was. But like, there are people that came out of his in-person meeting that knew him and were even like more impressed and were like, wow, this guy's ready to be a manager. That was their opinion. And he's the guy they decided on.
What's the reaction that you've gotten from inside that organization that didn't really have a big part in hiring Craig Stammen, along with players and maybe coaches? What's the reaction to this news today?
He is well liked. He is loved there, and some of the core players love him, and I've known that for a long time. And I would always play Craig up as a leader, and I get why people were dubious about that. Because he's a relief pitcher, and I will say this: I've never known a relief pitcher to have the role that Craig Stammen had in the clubhouse. I mean, he holds sway with Manny and Tatis. He holds sway with Joe Musgrove, Yu Darvish. And obviously with other pitchers, Jay Cronenworth, reveres is maybe not strong enough a word. I mean, Craig is just one of those guys that is a man of extremely high character. And so people, the reaction that I love is because I got it from, 6-8 people, was the same as my reaction when I found out, which was shock and then instantly, okay, this makes sense. Now, I want you to interpret that for me. We all got to have questions about this first-time manager who, was a pitcher. Those are all legitimate. I am not saying Craig Stammen's. I'm not he's sitting here guaranteeing you that Craig Stammen's taking them to the playoffs for the World Series. I'm just saying that he has the qualities. There is zero doubt he has the qualities of a manager, and that has been the reaction from people in the organization and elsewhere.
It's interesting you say Kevin Acee is our Padres insider. He's back with us because you've covered baseball for a long time. I worked in minor league baseball. When you think about some of your interactions over the years with Craig Stammen, because baseball players all kind of have similar personas, or some do. There's just lots of baseball players, and they're all comparable. What was it about your time covering him that made him kind of stand out among other players you've covered throughout the course of the years?
Well, there are a couple things, and maybe I need to get Craig's permission to really talk about these because I'm not going to go out of school. That's kind of how I built my trust. But I will tell you that we've worked through a couple things, and he's helped me, with a couple things. And so without giving details, just let me tell you that he's a man of principle and a man of his words. And he has called me out on stuff and been upset at me about stuff. And we've worked through it like men. And I hate to sound like an old dude who's going to be 55 next week, but that's rarer and rarer. among today's athlete, and I'm assuming among many young people. It's just not a trait. Let's just get on Twitter and kill people. But like, he's a man. He's a human being. I keep using the word integrity, and that's what stands out to his teammates. He was a reliever, right? Who I know that even though, the guy did have a 3.33 ERA or a 3-something ERA and 333 appearances, and had at one point from like 2017 to 21 had more high leverage appearances than any pitcher in the game. It was actually pretty good. But yeah, you know what? He had some terrible outings as well. And you know what? Unlike some guys today, Craig Stammen was always there. And whether it was 3 shutout innings or it was 4 home runs in a row, which yes, did happen once, he would talk to you and give you the details for as long as you needed. And I've said this before on here, that I don't really think how you treat the media matters unless it says something about who you are as an individual. And the way that Craig Stammen treated the media as a conduit to the fans did say something about him. So like, there's just a lot, and like I said, those players that respect him, his managers who loved him. You could say that in 2017, he was coming off a 2016 season in which he spent in the minors coming back from flexor tendon surgery. Didn't know if his career was over. Minor league deal with the Padres. Pitched well, made the team. But a part of the reason he made the team is they were so incredibly young. They needed Craig Stammen's experience in the clubhouse. Then in 2021, he's getting a little older. He'd been good, but their bullpen was good. Okay, yeah, we can use Craig Stammen. They gave him $4 million a year, $4.5 million a year. Yeah, he's good, but we need Craig Stammen's leadership in the clubhouse. So there was twice that he basically was with the team because they said, we need him. And remember, when they brought him back in 21, that was a good team. Like it wasn't like, oh, it's this young team where we just need this old guy. He had proved himself as a leader all over the clubhouse, and they wanted him to be on a good team. And so those things speak to me as well.
Obviously, the headliner today, Craig Stammen, new Padres manager. I think it's equally or maybe even more important that they retain and bringing back Ruben Niebla. He was obviously, under consideration to be the next manager of that team, of the team. Two-part question. How close was that to be a possibility to him be the next manager? And then once he did not become the next manager, how did that process go down where they were able to retain him and bring him back as the pitching coach?
We always have to be careful when we're dissecting the end of these, right? Because it'd be really easy for I'm not saying they do this, but maybe some people do. It'd be really easy for the organization to tell the 3 runners up that they were all so great and they almost got the job and all that, right? So let's be careful. But everyone said Ruben did a great job and that, he may have been the number 2 guy. Now, of course, I've also heard Pujols was the number 2 guy. So anyway, but Ruben is, we can say beyond a shadow of a doubt, one of Preller's guys, highly respected around the league and certainly in the clubhouse and in the organization. There's 2 things. In some senses, Ruben has 2 years left on his contract, so he's got to come back. On the other hand, the Padres would allow him if he wanted to go, if someone else, one of the new managers or a team that still has to hire a manager and wanted him as a pitching coach, the Padres would let him interview. I would imagine that seems to be the indication, but there is zero doubt that they want him back. And when I say they, virtually everybody in the organization from Preller on down. And so I expect him to be back. Without speaking too far out of school, the indications from Ruben, I think are non-committal at this point, but it's always been his intention to remain with the Padres. And obviously he wanted it to be as the manager. So be a lot of upset people in the organization, in the clubhouse, if he's not back.
Kevin Acee, your Padres Insider, with us right now on Jon and Jim. It appears to me from the outside, Kevin, that this would be an organizational vote of confidence for AJ Preller, as Craig Stammen has worked for Preller and now Preller has hired a manager. Now the manager gets a 3-year deal. As we know right now, Preller is signed through 2026. Do you see it? I don't know if formality is the right word, but is it almost assumed at this point that we're going to receive word of an AJ Preller extension sooner rather than later?
I felt like it was a formality, and I think I presented it that way for a couple months. So now, to your point, I would feel more confident in that now. Yes, I mean, Eric Gubner was highly involved in this for sure. John Seiler was involved in this. There were others, but Craig Stammen would suggest that this was an AJ Preller production. Again, man, this isn't hiring Jace Tingler, who, by the way, didn't play in the major leagues for 12 years or even one game. And they did think they were good then, right? But still, this is a team they absolutely expect to contend for a championship next year. And they just handed the reins to Craig Stammen. This is a huge decision. So, as it seems that we've talked about virtually every year for the last 5 years, AJ Preller has staked his future to the new manager.
Yeah, he absolutely has. Kevin, how would you see the rest of this coaching staff shaping out? They need a new hitting coach. Victor Rodriguez is going to Houston. That's already been confirmed. I'm sure that they're going to be looking for a bench coach for Craig Stammen. We've had this conversation in the past about how much, sway does the manager have in hiring his own staff? Is that going to be a situation like in the past where AJ is heavily involved in that? Or will Craig be able to hire his own staff? How's that situation going to go? And who do you think could be a part of the staff in the future?
My understanding is Craig does have some ideas. And he's receiving counsel from people too. Yes, AJ has huge sway in it. And AJ might argue with that and say that he doesn't, but, we're probably getting into semantics there. When AJ, when your boss suggests people and those people do have good credentials and your boss makes a good argument for it, you're going to go with him. So AJ has a lot of sway. And so you're going to need a hitting coach. You're going to need a third base coach. You may need a bench coach. I'm not going to rule out Brian Esposito, man. There is thought by including some in the organization and definitely other people I've talked to that as a first-time manager that he needs to get a man in the bench coach role who has sat in his chair, who has been a manager. There's a lot that goes on, and that no matter how great Craig Stammen might be as a baseball mind, all that. And by the way, a lot of people believe the hardest thing to do is manage your bullpen. And if you've got Ruben Niebla, Ben Fritz, and a former reliever as the manager, I think they're going to be in good shape there. But you need a guy who understands the offensive side, all that. So, but I got to tell you, that's one thing where Preller, that's not hugely important to him, man. Right or wrong, I could argue with him all day on that. But the strategy stuff, it's just not all that important to Preller that the manager be this. He appreciated that about Mike Schilt. That's probably that's probably the best manager he's had. But I would maybe make an argument for Andy Green. But he didn't think that was the end all. He likes it to be group think. And he has a lot of belief in Esposito, in Stammen, in Niebla, and that and an Esposito. So it could still be Brian Esposito.
I have one last question, which is just in generalities, the familiarity with an organization obviously was a positive for Craig Stammen.
Yeah.
Is there any thought maybe sometimes you're too close? It's if me and Jim work together all these years and all of a sudden I become Jim's boss, the relationship and the dynamic changes between me and Jim. When you've been a peer and now all of a sudden you're a manager or coach, that dynamic all of a sudden has to change. I mean, is that only a positive, or could that be a negative potentially as well?
It could be. And this is something that I think is, a very legitimate question. And I do. I want to say that I'm aware of times that Craig Stammen has spoken his mind as a player, as a reliever, for goodness sake. Barely a player. I'm joking, but you know the point I'm making. And as a totally inexperienced special assistant, he has spoken up. And Preller loves that, loves that. And so I say that in answer to your question, that I also have, when he was a reliever, that he stood up to other players. And not that there was a confrontation, but that things that happen in the clubhouse, things that need to be said, people that need to be stood up for, whatever it is, Craig has had the difficult conversations, and he is the kind of guy, I'm telling you, the integrity, the character. And I want to make it clear here, so I'm not coming across as some sort of cheerleader. I don't know what kind of manager he's going to be, but when you want to talk about, there are maybe a handful of guys I've ever covered that I would bet you everything I have on their character and their integrity, and Craig Stammen is one of them. And when I say handful, I just mean that 4 or 5 guys that he has that. And a part of integrity is being able to say to a friend, right, a former teammate, a guy and that maybe that guy saw you as a peer more than a superior now, you are going to stand your ground. Craig Stammen has that ability. I can't stress that enough. And the reason I'm stressing it so much is your question is absolutely legit. I'm just saying Craig Stammen can handle it.
Kevin, we appreciate the reporting, your perspective, taking time to join us. We're looking forward to hearing from Craig Stammen and the organization on Monday as well. But thanks for taking time for us. Hope all is well this offseason, and look forward to doing it again soon.
Right on, guys. See you.
All right, great stuff from Kevin Acee. We react on the other side. Plus, Chris Hodge, free picks for our listeners coming up at 4:30 on Jon and Jim.